Okay, welcome. Hello, everyone in the room in Denmark, Copenhagen, and everyone online joining us from their offices and homes. Today, we look ahead the future of research. We are live streaming this session from Ray Network meeting in Copenhagen as part of the annual Ray Network meetings hosted by Ray Danish National Agency. And you, it's as some of you might know, Ray is a youth research network bringing together 34 countries around Europe and 36 partners at the moment. When we say research, we mean youth research linked to European youth programs, European Erasmus Plus youth, and the European Solidarity Corps, and to youth work practice in Europe. This includes Ray Network's work, which is monitoring and we propose studies and we have thematic projects at national and transnational levels. All of this research and the findings and analysis are available at Ray Network's website, free to download. So we encourage all those who are in their homes and later on check these wonderful findings created by Ray Research Network. We focus particularly on youth work and non-formal learning, and our target groups are young people, youth workers, and organizations, as well as the national agencies and policymakers who shape and run the program. And the purpose is very practical: how to improve the program design, how to improve the implementation, to support organizations and practitioners in their work, and to inform policy. In other words, how to strengthen research and practice networks and research and policy networks. Today, we want to talk about the future of what we do and research, and we will have three pillars that guide us: the content, what we study; methodology, how we are studying; and actors, who does the research. And overall, we have one question in mind, which is the evidence created, for whom it is. How will it help and improve practice? How will it help and improve policy and the cross-sector collaboration? And I am joined with three very important Ray people with us. First of all, we are very glad to have Eva Feldman, who's the Ray researcher for Germany, and she is from the Center of Applied Policy Research at the Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich. And then we have Rilke Mahoy, who's a Ray National Agency colleague from the National Agency YINT, Belgium, Flanders. And we have Andreas Karsten, Ray Transnational Research Coordinator. We have a lot of topics. We have a lot of interesting findings in Ray. So we begin without losing time. And I want to start with very simple one-sentence question. Why do we need to talk about the future of research now? Andreas, shall we start with you?
Yeah, thank you, and welcome everyone. Why should we talk about the future of research now? I think very simple, though also a very hard answer. We conduct research and we run and manage the European youth programs in a world that seemingly begins to crumble around us. We all have questions as citizens and humans in our mind about how to strengthen democracy, about how to rebuild trust in democratic institutions, and also about how to rebuild the trust of democratic actors in young people and their capacity. And in that context and environment, we conduct our research, and that becomes increasingly challenging. And that's why it's important to discuss now how we want to go ahead.
That's very important. It's not just the program and impact, but its contribution to the society. Rilke?
Yes, actually, I would like to answer this question from two different vantage points, and I will start with the NA perspective on this. For the national agencies who are responsible for implementing the youth programs in the most effective, efficient, relevant way, it is very important to have this support of a solid monitoring and evaluation system or mechanism. And I think, well, Ray has proven to provide us this support. And I think a good way of depicting what Ray means to the NA network is it's a critical friend, a friend who knows us really well, but asks us critical questions, brings us new perspectives, points of view we did not think about. So for the NAs, I think also in the future, whatever the European youth programs will look like, it will always be important to have this support. And then I would like also bring in the community of practice perspective. And of course, I'm not representing the community of practice, but I had the pleasure of being at the European Youth Work Convention about 4 months ago. Probably many of you have heard about this. This is the biggest youth sector event where policymakers, practitioners, and all other stakeholders in the youth field gathered to think about the future of youth work. And if I think back of the discussions that were there, the messages that were shared, I heard a call returning in every panel, in every a session there, that we need more research, we need to monitor more what is actually happening on the ground in the youth field. So I think that also confirms to us and the RAY network how important it is to think of this also in the future.
Thank you, Rilke. And Eva, you've been part of Ray Research for many years, but you also conduct many other research in different sectors. So why do we need to talk about the future of research now?
I think it's very important because, as Andrea said and you said, the world is really changing. Many things are under pressure, and two things we are researching on, that youth and Europe, are sort of second ordinary when it comes to elections and policy and so on. And research can give you an insight and can be explorative and can show things and can be a bridge to policymakers, to other stakeholders. But research itself and the academic world is more and more not somewhere very apart from what is the real life, but is a real stakeholder. But this has to be connected to intelligent concept, I think, and to more dialogue. And so I really appreciate that I can be part of this panel here. Thanks.
Thank you. As once a youth worker told me that youth work works, I know it, and now with Ray data, I can show it. So I think we need to keep giving this as well. And let's proceed and let's open these three pillars. Let's start with the content. What should be on the research agenda? What should we study? The content of youth research linked to the European youth programs and the youth work practice in Europe. So, what are the trends? What is coming? What is laying in the short and midterm ahead of us? What should be looking at? Eva, shall we continue with you?
Yeah, I think the question is that we should stress very much on quality of our research. And quality means that the people we research on are not only objects, but they are sort of interactive, integrated. And that is something which is extraordinary for Ray. The network meeting shows it, where different parts are on one side, and that is so important for for nowadays. And young people taking part in the program, they are not only research on their views, but their views should be brought in, and they are sort of co-creators for the program, and research can help to show how it is possible and to validate, as you said, but to open minds and maybe to derive some new ways. And I think this is very important that research sees here quality factor and a sort of added value. It's not only academically very close to all these standards, they have to be fulfilled, but at the end, the role is a bit different in our sector as a co-player or co-creator, and I think that is unique, but we have to promote it and we have to show what is the added value and the quality of these findings.
Very interesting. Wilke?
Yes, I find it a difficult question because there is so much happening in the world today, and I'm first of all, thinking of a number of societal trends or evolutions that are happening while we speak, and that are touching upon the core values of the European youth programs, the rise of anti-democratic movements, and also how these movements have moved from the periphery to the center of the political system. Also, there was one other thing I wanted to say here. Yeah, the remilitarization of Europe, which is something we probably did not expect 10 years ago, and is also very worrying and has an impact on young people very much. But then, besides these big societal trends, we have to take into account there are also tendencies in the youth field that are very significant. And one thing I see, and that's a positive evolution, I think, is that more and more we realize that youth work is not delivering itself, and that behind quality youth work, there are youth workers, and that we need to pay attention very much to the circumstances in which youth workers are working, the recognition they get, the career prospects they have. So this higher attention on the status of youth workers as professionals, but also volunteers. That's, I think, a positive development in our field.
I mean, researchers are part of the society as well. We are not operating in a vacuum. Youth workers are part of the society they are working in. So we have to keep our finger on the pulse and recognize what is happening around us and reflect it. Andreas, from the Ray transnational position.
Yeah, let me add maybe, excuse me, a third element to the discussion. I think experimenting with participatory research, quite crucial, like Eva said, shifting themes and centering them more on what is happening politically and in our societies, like Rikke said, equally important. And I think a third challenge we have to face and master is that currently our research is quite individualistic. So we look at the individual learning journeys of project participants, the individual experiences of project team members, and we don't much look at societal circumstance and systemic failure and systemic challenges. And I think we have to start beginning to explore how to touch the hot iron that the European Union currently is for many young people and for many youth workers and for our field, and pick up on discussions that we have anyway, everywhere, also in our research, and find ways of exploring the dilemma that the European Union promotes values, but in their practical policy application, those values are contradicted, to put it kindly. And that, at the moment, we don't really explore with our research, and I think in the future we really must and should.
And I congratulate our panel talking about future topics without even saying once the word AI. Because nowadays, the moment they say future, you must say it. And for those who are not familiar with Ray's work, we have already covered AI. We've been talking and discussing about it for last 3-4 meetings. And here as well, we had extensive workshops and discussions on the pluses and minuses of AI. And Ray even has a project, a research project going on. You can check on the website on digitalization and all these aspects. So for us, that is a little bit yesterday. So for those who are waiting for AI, it's in the reports and it's coming there. We have it. But Ray has been going on and making research for 17 years now. And for those who will visit the website, there are about more than 50 reports, more than 3,000 pages reports at the Ray website, plus all those created by the wonderful people sitting in the room here, national reports, national analysis. So we have a massive experience in methodology because Ray is very good in methodological debates, discussions, using different methodologies. But from where you look, how does the future look? How we study these topics in methodology? Do you see a shift? You already mentioned something on participatory approach, action research. These are all debates we are having among ourselves. Would you like to share some with our viewers, Andreas?
Yeah, I think participatory research, or increasing the participatory nature of our research and strengthening participatory approaches in all phases of research is definitely a big one. I mean, we now have a couple of youth advisory boards for national agencies and have participation being strengthened in the management part of the program. And I think it's long overdue that we do the same in research. After all, we are talking about European youth programs that are aiming to promote participation. So it's time we take on that challenge in the research parts of the program too. I think another big shift will probably be that we'll start to try and also survey, interview, discuss with project participants and project teams before they start a project and before they join the programs and have a program experience. That is methodologically a little bit tricky because by asking these questions before they go somewhere, you of course influence their thinking and also their action. So in a way, you begin to preempt and change the educational process. So how to figure that out is a very interesting and intricate discussion. But I think that's going to be one of the big movements that we'll see in the next program generation and the next years.
I mean, that's one of the comments when we get in touch with practice. There's the accusation that youth researchers are living in a bubble and trying to research. But we are on the field, we are communicating, and the way RAY is structured, which is national agency plus the researchers, is very important because national agency is constantly in touch with the beneficiaries, with different stakeholders. So, Rilke, methodology-wise, from a national agency perspective, what is in the future for us?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to point out something similar. I think one major strength of RAY today is how cooperation between researchers and non-researchers, the NAs, is really built into the structure of the whole network, built into the structure of every single research project. And I also thought that in the future, the next important step to take could be to include our research participants more. I can imagine that in some of our projects, we could have a panel of young people or beneficiaries who interpret the data together with us. So it's a bit along the same line as what Andreas was saying. And then another important method shift that is coming anyway, because it's in the pipeline, is more related to how we analyze and disseminate the data and data findings. And as some may have already heard, but others maybe not, there is an open data portal under development, which will make basically all the survey data accessible to whoever who wants to use it. And that's something, very exciting. And what is especially interesting is that it will be also easily accessible and usable by non-researchers and NA staff in the first place, but whoever is interested in data, and that's something very, very significant thing that will happen. And it's lovely how Ray is pioneering also in this field, because this is not something that is happening very often, I think, in the research world, this transparency in data.
And it is part of the debate because when we speak of methodology, the first thing comes to mind is methods of data collection, methods of data analysis. But as you have rightly pointed out, we are giving a lot of importance to methods in data usage, dissemination, and that's why that we, over the last 2 days, we had workshops on communication and dissemination as well, best practices. And I think it's very important what you raised. It's not only quality data collection, quality data analysis, but also quality dissemination and sharing. So these are important news. And Eva, you are in collecting the data, analyzing the data, and disseminating the data. So what is in the future?
I think in the future we should stress on what is very important in Ray and unique for our field. I think that is this value-based research when it comes to content, when it comes to methods. For example, like Andreas Justus, you pointed it out, that always there are this participatory approaches and feedback loops. You can say, okay, that's not so strictly connected to one method. Is it really research if there are feedback loops incorporated? But I think we were good in practicing and exercising some and creating our own methods, which are really sector specific, but maybe not so much academically rooted. So so far. But I think this is one of the future things I think we should bring forward, that the sector demands for specific methodology, and even the very strict connection to the priorities like participation, you pointed it out, but inclusion. That is a very demanding task. How can we work with academic standards, but the ethics demand that our message should be different, yeah? And this is a sort of, not paradox, but a sort of challenge, and I think this is interesting for the future. The same is for sustainability as a third priority of the program, and yeah, the digitalization, or however you want to call it, which you named by AI, all this together has a specific and implications for the research. Not everywhere we have answers, but that's good, because we really want to be on time. We want to look in the future and to create it together.
That's important, and that also raises an issue, that who you our findings, they have to be ethical, quality, and sharing. But our evidence shows that Ray findings are not only used by youth sector and youth workers, but from all different sectors: education, employment, even housing, because this mobility creates certain issues. And on the other hand, we also have the understanding that youth work is not a bubble. Young people are parts of the society. So everything they do, these programs, competence development, reflects on education sector, on employment sector. I don't like to use that term a lot, but it is a reality of this employability. So lots of our research finds evidence in that, which means Ray Network, yes, it does look at the impact of youth programs, but it has a cross-sectoral outcome. So why it is important at this moment and in the future, talking and working cross-sectoral, and how can our contributions, the findings of Ray, could contribute to the work of different sectors: education, employment, health. Even we had serious findings on different health aspects as well. So future and cross-sectorality. Andreas, do you want to start?
We continue with the easy questions. I mean, would maybe go as far to say that youth research as a field, not only our small part of youth research around the European youth programs, but youth research as a wider field, has a strong tradition in working and thinking and approaching research cross-sectorally, simply because that's the reality of working with an age group. It's not even particularly unique to young people, but if you look at public policies for young people, at the things that impact young people's lives, that cuts across many of what we consider sectors at the moment. It ranges from education to employment, from health to housing, foreign policies, defense policies. You name it, we have it. But that's, of course, also the same, say, for senior citizens, right? They're also as an age group, and you have to work and think cross-sectorally. So I would say for us, sort of as youth researchers, that maybe doesn't feel particularly special, and it's something that we find very much ingrained in our work. And I appreciate that very often when I venture into other policy fields where this is not quite so common yet. So I don't think there's any risk of us giving that up. I think we're going to enjoy doing that, and comes to us in the meantime quite naturally. But I think what we can and should get better at is connecting us with both in youth work and youth work professionals, but also in research and researchers with other fields more proactively, right? Because we leave our research findings for, let's say, youth health researchers to be found, and for youth mobility research to be discovered. And we don't yet spend a lot of time, not as a network, and I would say maybe also not as a profession, on connecting these things more proactively. So I think we have a little bit of a task to do there. But I would say in terms of cross-sectorally, maybe that's not the biggest challenge for us to solve, but one where we can quite confidently say we are really good at doing that.
That's good news. Eva?
Yeah, I would add something different, which is not really cross-sectoral in your sense, but which is very amazing and very nice for the Ray network, that it is interdisciplinary and international or European in the sense of peer learning, peer connecting, and that is really great because especially in the field of research, it's not so common that researchers from political science like me, from sociology, from psychology, from education really work together. Normally there are competitions or they're really in their strengths. That is one thing. And then the other side is they come from all over Europe with different research traditions, and some are very, very detailed, others are more in this essay style, and it is a big learning, but feeling of being together in Europe and to create something which is specific and new and interesting. And I think this is additional aspect, not cross-sectoral in what you meant, but I wanted to point it out here because it's really fascinating.
That's important. And for those who are not familiar with Ray Network, as Eva mentioned, I'm looking around the room and I see lots of languages, lots of disciplines, lots of methodologies, which is really giving us a strength when we're tackling new issues. And I think it's one of the ways to prepare for the future, to have this multidisciplinary, multilinguistic, multi-reality approach as well. Because what is happening in one country is just happened 10, 15 years ago in another country. And Ray gives us this comparative advantage. But Rilke, as a national agency, you are dealing with different sectors on daily basis, especially education, with different programs. So future and cross-sectorality.
Yeah, actually, a bit similar as youth research. Our experience with youth work and the youth sector is that most stakeholders who are active there approach young people in a very holistic manner, because they start from the life world of young people. And then naturally, of course, different aspects are part of this. And if youth work contributes to the development of young people, this affects the careers of young people, the study choices, the well-being. So naturally, all those domains are there and are also interconnected. So also, maybe similar as to what Andreas was saying, I don't see a big challenge from the side of youth work itself. The biggest challenge that is out there and often pronounced by youth workers is that other sectors do not fully recognize what youth work is doing in all those domains. So that's often the challenge. And then as a question to as an answer to your second question, like what can Ray maybe mean? What can Ray change there? I think in the European Youth Programs there are excellent examples of cross-sectorial cooperation, and maybe it could be a future focus of Ray to highlight more how, under what conditions these different sectors are cooperating in a fruitful way, and what we can learn from this. So that could be something we could do to highlight this more, and then spread the message also about what youth work is doing for all those different fields. Yeah.
Thank you, Rilke. You raised an interesting topic as well. What to do with Ray data? Who will use our findings, and they will use it for what? You already gave a very interesting perspective. And it's always a question, who is the end user and what decisions can our findings inform? Would you like to continue that from your perspective again, the Ray findings and data? What purpose it can serve, what decisions it can help, who can use the findings in the future?
Yes,
Or
of course.
who should
Yeah.
use?
Well, should and will use for sure our national agencies and also the Salto resource centers in our network. And I think we can use this data both for internal reasons to guide some of the decisions we have to make. Sometimes I also see how the Ray outcomes are really motivating us, because they sometimes confirm our gut feeling or the impressions we are having, or the observations we are making in our the contacts we are having with beneficiaries. But it's also very important for our, so to say, external work, because Ray findings help us to communicate to communicate about the programs, and sometimes also add elements to this communication we may not think about. So it enriches our communication, I think. And last but not least, we use it also to report to our national authority to provide to support evidence-based youth policies, and to show the depth of impact of the youth programs beyond the numbers of participants and projects. So I see importance on many different layers there. Yeah.
Okay, Eva, would you like to continue?
Yes, sure. If you ask me so friendly. Yeah, I think there's one thing. Yeah, I agree completely with you. The data are for the national agencies, for the commission to improve the programs together with the sector for all the people working there, youth work. But I wanted to stress on an extra aspect, which is it is this advocacy character of our research data that does not only mean percentages, but it is like giving the sector professionals and young people a voice. And since we have this qualitative, very strong strand, which goes complementary with the qualitative data, so it is like a very good insight what young people think, what youth workers, what are their concerns. And I think this is very, very important, that data, and it has to change a bit the understanding of what is data. Normally you think really about figures, but we have this insight, this quotes, which are sometimes showing aspects you can't better define or name or more precisely express, because there's special vibe in it, there is emotion in it, social intelligence, and all these other things only figures can't show you. And I think this is very important in a world we are, you described at the beginning, Andreas, that to show this heart beating in the data. So I'm so happy that we have this qualitative and quantitative, which is very important, but the qualitative strand as well. And one more, we have even a long-term study on participation and active citizenship by individuals, and that is something great as well. So you see the impact on different levels. Yes, we stress maybe a bit too much on this individual aspect, as you told, for the future, but policymakers don't have a chance to have this individual feelings, and you can get it by our research, the organizational learning, and the bigger context and structures. And I think that makes it really great.
And for those who are watching us online, you might have noticed that we have announced we were going to have one more panelist, Alvaro from Youth Forum, representing Youth Forum. And unfortunately, he couldn't join us today. But one aspect we were discussing with him is Youth Forum also made a research on the need for future data, future research. And as the practitioners, they were also stressing the need of mixed data, testimonials, experiences, stories, but these are not to be presented as exceptions, one-off cases, but together with larger sample data. So the practitioners are also in need of this mixed approaches. And let's not forget that there is a bigger pressure now on the practitioners, even applying for funds. They have to demonstrate based on data why this project, this intervention is necessary, or after reporting, they have to demonstrate that it worked and it created difference. So the need for quality data, the need for quality research by the practitioners is increasing, and there's a big demand. So research practice dialogue, as Alvaro was mentioning in our early meetings, is more necessary than ever, and we can continue to discuss this. But again, let's focus on future. And Andreas, 17 years of Ray network.
Yeah.
What are we doing well and that we will continue in the future, or what we have decided to stop doing or change the way we're doing?
Well, we are a teenager now, so we are doing a number of things to experiment with life and with research, and mostly that's fun. What we have given up, I think I can confidently say, is publish research reports that are more than 400 pages long. We have tried, not particularly successful. And so we have given up on that, and our research reports are much shorter now, much punchier, with many more illustrations. And even our newest one, published this morning on competence development through training in the European youth programs, with graphics and illustrations. Fairly wild in the context of research. Don't laugh at me. In the context of research, this is fairly wild. I think what we do what we're quite good at in the meantime is producing condensed summaries of our reports for policy audiences, for different stakeholders in the program, also tailoring our presentations of key findings to an audience and spending a lot of time in making sure the data that we pull as examples for colleagues who run particular project formats, who have particular roles, that this is tailored to their need and interest and curiosity and work. I think what we are quite crappy at, to be honest, is what you just touched upon, preparing and communicating data uh, to practice, to youth organizations, to youth work organizations in a way that makes it easy for them to draw on the data for applications, for developing strategies, for developing work programs. We have a lot of data that could be useful for that. We have published in 17 years, one sole report addressed to practitioners, which I was slightly ashamed and am also co-responsible for. So putting the blame where it belongs, namely on my shoulder here. And that I think we need to get much, much better at. There is a need, a desire, and a hunger for understanding the data that we have, also in the context of youth work practice, much more than before. And we have to find ways and formats and also mobilize resources and spend money on making that possible.
Well, now I feel embarrassed that there's only one, but more is coming. In the future, there will be more. We take it as a promise. And then, Eva, you spoke about quality. So the future and quality, because there's a lot of surveying. In our research, we are talking about survey fatigue. In some countries that are members of Ray Network, our researchers are reporting that it's over-surveyed, and some young people are less inclined to fill out more surveys. So in the future, how do you see quality aspect, but also this increased research? There is more and more demand for research, more and more demand for data. So how do we keep that balance?
No, it's a very big question, €1 million question maybe, how to keep that balance. We want to know very much. We need more insights. On the other hand, you can feel like over surveyed, but not by the survey and the interest, but by the very limited possibilities you have in the sector, because there is a lack of money. People are stressed. They have not full-time jobs and so on, and then they want to do a good job for answering in the right way, but that takes time. And I think one maybe way out could be that we more than now invite the field of praxis in the designing process, because then they are part of it and then they support it, and they don't feel over-surveyed because their interest is in as well. So we try it a bit, but it's not so easy because you need this dialogue. Dialogue needs money, resources, time. But I think this is in fact easy, but difficult to realize this dialogic principle really seriously in order to get authentic results.
So increasing the ownership of young people can contribute them, being more motivated to be part of it. and also to use it. Okay, what is then? We already hear some decisions, promises being made. And from your perspective, what is one decision in the next quarter that better evidence would affect, would change?
Yeah, I think the Ray output contributes a lot to understanding the impact of the European youth programs. But if I look at discussions in the NA network, these discussions are also about other aspects of the implementation. And some of the strongest discussions for the moment are more about how we can cooperate among the different national agencies on several topics. For example, beside this RAY network, we have 15 strategic national agency corporations, which have been very active throughout the last years, which realized a high volume of activities and so forth. But if I look at those strategic operations, I feel that improvement is possible in the monitoring of those activities. And this could really help us in making decisions for the future also. So the question is not always what should be the topic of the day, but also how can we approach it in the best way.
That's important to hear that. I want to bring the issue to an aspect which is we were discussing in our session as well. There's not one future. Time, how near it is affects. If the time is near, we tend to be more practical, going after what is feasible. But when you expand the time, you look at midterm, we speak more about values, we speak more about principles, we think different when the time aspect changes. So let's start with the near one, the next 3 months. From your role, what is one thing you will deliver or use? What is in the near future for you? Andreas?
Well, my near future is very clearly determined by our next round of monitoring surveys, which will kick off with this panel. And in the next 3 months, you will, if you have participated in the European Youth Programs as a participant or in a project team, you will receive an invitation from us to respond to our surveys. And 125,000 people have done so in the past. And we would love it if you were one of the 125,000 people of the near future. And thank you in advance. And if you've done it in the past, also thank you for your past. But that is a huge process for us. Technically, we spend a lot of time making sure these invitations don't go out fast enough, that the people are reached who should be reached, that the invitations are kind, that we answer to questions. So my next 3 months until the end of the year will be very firmly dominated by the invitations to our monitoring surveys, which we hope you in the room and out there receive very kindly and respond to. Thank you.
Thank you. Rilke, next 90 days.
Yes, our and my role also in my national agency is to support this, to share the message with beneficiaries, to motivate them to participate in the Raymond and SOC service. And next to that, I have something else on my agenda as we want to recruit a new youth researcher nationally. So hopefully, yes, in a few months I can say, well, I have accomplished this as well.
Okay, Eva?
Yeah, I could easily say, wait the next 90 days for coming in this data, but no, we are not not only waiting, but I'm looking forward to the so-called Ray Day, which is on 20th of October, all over Europe and all our partner countries. And we are going to have in Munich an event, cooperation with the local representative of the European Commission and the European Patent Office and stakeholders in the field, young people, in order to show and to do this, what we claimed here before, our data, and to make them visible under a subject like strengthen European values, Erasmus Plus and the Solidarity Core make a difference.
So if you're near Munich or Germany on the raid close to Ray Day, please do join this event. And you can also follow Ray accounts on more information on different Ray days and the information provided. But this was easy. 90 days, we can more or less see. What about 2028 and this European changes in the program cycle and other things? Eva, let's start with you. If you look at the midterm, what do you see by 2028?
Midterm future, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a nice word. I learned it here. It's a
midterm future.
midterm future. So for the midterm future, I hope I can be optimistic. It's not so easy, but I think these two strands you mentioned before. One is employability, which is in fact, if we are really honest, something very important for young people. But on the other hand, the second pillar, which is now as needed as much, the democratic attitudes, skills, behavior, openness to take action, because really Europe is in trouble. This sector should be strengthened. So I hope that we then are a bit further. We know how the new program looks like. We are full of good ideas. The money is never enough, but somehow so okay that we can start. And research is not only about data, but because research is not data on people, the people are not for the data, the other way around. We can work together and include more young people in that process, that we don't research not only on the views and feelings, but with and even take the ideas from young people and implement them. So I'm difficult to say, but I'm optimistic. And I hope this helps to collect our optimism and to support now on the way to this middle future, midterm future. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
We need a lot of support, and then we can start to have the long-term future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got the concept.
Well, it's all steps by steps. 2028, Rilke.
Yes. Well, I've already mentioned that it's a big strength of this network of the Ray research, how national agencies are very strongly involved in the whole research process and the network. So I hope in 2028 this commitment will still be there. And I also think that when we promote our youth programs, we often say that we do this because we believe in exchange, in cooperation, and I hope that in 2028 we can still give the good example there and to show how we practice what we preach in this respect.
Nice. Andreas?
I will add to the reign of optimism, even though that almost feels like an act of defiance in our day and time. I strongly believe and hope that on January 1st, 2028, we will experience for the first time in 1 or 2 generations the seamless start of a new program generation, not only in the youth field, but across all policy fields. All the instruments will be there, the money will be flowing, and we don't have to wait 9 months for something to happen and think about how to handle and bridge that time with 1,000 improvisations. But I also hope that in 2028, we have found a good response as a network to the struggle of positioning research in the middle of the struggle of the youth work sector and society as a whole to strengthen and part also rebuild and reinvent democracy, and that maybe we have a research project around that or a research strand and research direction around that. We always work in Ray with abbreviations. We have a research project at the moment that we're just starting on who is missing from the European Youth Program. European Youth Programs going by the name of Ray Miss. So I would imagine that our democracy research program is probably going to be called Ray Demo.
Okay, that's news. Okay, then, for those who are online, fill in the blank in the following sentence. They should check Ray and follow Ray because
Gives you new insights and good ideas how the youth programs are working in practice, and inspiring you for your own work.
Rilke,
Because
they should follow Ray because
Ray contributes to the recognition of youth work.
and validates and the value.
They should follow Ray because we have a splendid team of research and science communicators who run very entertaining and insightful social media channels and websites, and it's worth your time.
Okay, then that's important to know. Um, Different cultures have always tried to see the future. They had different aspects. Some were looking at the stars, some were looking at the tea leaves. In my culture, we look at the coffee residues, but it was always an attempt to see the future. But it is considered as one nature, one future that cannot be changed, and we're trying to see it. But looking at data, looking at signals, looking at what is happening around us helps us to have an idea of different possible futures. But also, as youth work and community work, we have the agency. We might like what is likely to happen, or we might dislike. If we like it, we will work to make it happen. If we don't like it, we will fight for it not to happen. If imagine we had such a, in some cultures they were looking at a crystal ball, no? So if we had a crystal ball, what is one future you would like for it to happen? And if our data shows that it's not happening, what do you suggest we do? Andreas, you like this kind of tricky questions, so
I'm not sure I like this one. A future I would like to imagine, maybe more spoken as a human and a citizen and less as the Ray Transnational Research Coordinator, is a future where we stop surrendering public spaces to private companies and individuals, and where we regain our own infrastructure from profit-making structures and things and humans. I would like that very much. Our data will not really show whether or not we succeed in that. So I'm going to just wiggle around myself around that second question. Tough luck.
you okay?
That's a tough question.
No.
I think I would also respond not from my national agency. I will put off my national agency hat. Now, I think I would like to see a future where the voices of young people are truly heard, and young people feel they have agency to shape their future and the future of society.
Mm-hmm. Eva?
I think for me the most important is that we have peaceful living together, and if we have an insight in all the youth projects we are researching, we see it's possible, and people have a really strong will and wish, and they are sometimes a bit struggling. There can be conflicts and problems, but it is possible. How many young people are crying when they have to go home? Yeah, because this was a sort of microcosmos, not a crystal ball, but a microcosmos which showed them that it's possible if there's a will, if there is guidance, if there are clear rules but values and a space, and that is the most important bit connecting to you, where you can live it, and the space is not overtaken by any AI. I come back to your that is us, and we have it in our hand, and so that is something which gives hope and makes me cry at the same moment, because it is possible and we don't do it. So listen more to young people and look more in our sector.
Thank you. This has been inspiring, but also motivating at the same time. And before we conclude our broadcast and live session, I would like to give the floor for the last remarks, conclusionary remarks, taking into future of research, Ray Network, the new program coming up. Lots of people are talking, discussing about the new program cycle. Anything you would like to share with the audiences as the last comments? Rilke, let's start with you.
Yes, I think I wanted to say that doing research and monitoring, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity, I think, to invest in this. And it's also not something you do only when you think the time is there, but it's something we need to pay attention to on a more structural basis. throughout implementation of programs. So it's something that should be there always and not only every 7 years, for example. So this, yeah, structural attention to this is very important, I think.
Yeah. Eva, last comments, conclusionary remarks.
Seems to be a bit stressy now, but I think it's too political. But I really coming from that Institute for Political Research, I think the programs now and the future program and the new structure gives us structures. And this is very important, but they have to face complementary structures in the national context, in the society, on local level. And without complementary structures, the program is a bit like a nice world in this crystal bowl, but we really have to build up more structures in order to foster what we have and to keep it, and then there things can grow, develop, and have the space and the time for it. And it's not only project dependent if something is working or not. And my last hope is that our research was always like showing a bit, proving everything works, it's good, high numbers. But I would love if we can afford sometimes for failing, because it's like this. Maybe you have a group not working. The youth worker is in love with somebody and not really doing well, and not minded to dedicate it to the group. And this, to have this really freedom to say, okay, let us have a bit space for experimenting. What not everything has to be to hooray, very successful, very effective, but development and that time it needs. So that would be my hope and my last word.
Did you just declare being in love a failure?
No, not at all. I think the best love stories come out of Erasmus Plus, and I think
Yeah.
somebody already counted and Erasmus Plus babies and so on.
Yeah,
And
they are like
uh,
more than 100,000. I mean, beyond the youth field, this is not only our doing. Erasmus Plus, as a total program, has produced more than 100,000 Erasmus babies since their inception. That's not my last words, though.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
thinking.
No, I think what we see in our field, youth work across Europe, is still a huge discrepancy between a couple of countries who have formidably developed youth sectors where youth work is a recognized profession which you can study at a university with a curriculum, and educators where there is youth research, where there is further education and training, where there is a career path for youth workers, where there is quality standards and lots of other things supporting youth work structurally. And then we have many countries where none of that exists or very little, and where youth work sits solely on the shoulders of volunteers and youth organizations. And we have a good amount of countries somewhere in between. And I think we do not use the resources of the European Youth Program strategically enough ourselves uh, in building up structures and structural things, infrastructure in these countries that have so little of it. That will not be the main or first or best solution, but it is an opportunity that we too often leave lying around and not take up seriously ourselves. And I think demanding more structural support for youth work from national governments is crucial and important, and we shouldn't let them get out of that and keep up that challenge. But we should also make our own contribution in using the resources that we have and being more structurally supportive and more strategic in the work that we do.
That's very important. I have to make note of that now. Well, one of my most favorite poems is by the Polish poet Wisława Szymborska. It's titled Three Oddest Words. I strongly suggest you Google and find. But one part of the poem says, when I pronounce the word future, the first syllable already belongs to the past. So when we are talking about future, it's already happening. And what we say about future affects how we think about it and how we shape it. but we understand that we can't talk about something we can't know, but the data, the research, everything we do helps us to have a better idea of the possibilities. So I thank all the panelists for the messages you have shared with us. It makes us better prepared for future. And I know it is my least favorite sentence, but we really need to keep talking about the future. Thanks for your contributions. Thanks for those who joined us online from wherever you are around the world for our time. And we will continue after the broadcast is over. We will continue discussing and working. So please keep following Ray Network and our research findings. Let's give a big round of applause to our panelists. And I'm Özgehan. Thank you.
Thank you.